Just watch out when you walk here because these pebbles are slippery. If you kind of walk sideways at an angle, it's safer. I care about the river because it's a special place. Like, as you can see, there's all types of wildlife here, and it's a hidden gem in the city of Los Angeles. A lot of people know about the beach, and a lot of people know about what's up in the mountains and the snow up in Mammoth, but a lot of people don't know what's in their own backyard, a thriving ecosystem of fish and birds and all types of wildlife.
There are egrets flying over. There are ducks in this part of the river. It smells like a river. It's all very, I'm tempted to say it's all very LA. The challenge for LA is revisioning the river to make it look, to understand that this actually has beauty to it. The river, in essence, belongs to all of us. Getting to know the river, walking alongside of it, running alongside of it, biking alongside of it, coming down to its banks. That's an important thing for all of us to do, to listen to it and pay attention to it.
Real work in terms of restoration efforts really began about 25 years ago. There's been huge momentum. The city has expended a lot of funds to support reviving and revitalizing the river. In addition to that, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has just made $1 billion commitment for water restoration and river restoration.
River restoration is important. It brings back habitat. It also brings back places for Angelenos to enjoy.
Water is life. So this city never would have been built here if it hadn't been for the Los Angeles River. This river had enough water in it that it could actually maintain a population of almost 2 million people. It's the definition of the city itself from a geographical and environmental standpoint.
The river's why we're here. Los Angeles grew up in the 20th century with a particular vision about how a city would interact with nature. And the idea was that Los Angeles would grow in pockets. There'd be places where it would grow in an urban fashion, and then another place, maybe 5 or 10 miles away, and then separating them would be bands or green spaces of nature. And what happened was it worked too well, in essence. People came and they came and they came, and it filled in. Well, in filling that in, we lost track of this river, and we lost track of the nature around us. And the river now stands as one of the most important, if not the most important, natural sites that can be utilized to revision urban nature.
We had 3 floods in the recorded history of Los Angeles: 1914, 1934, and 1938. 1938 was the Great Flood of Los Angeles. It rained for 5 straight days, and we weren't sure what the next storm was going to bring. It destroyed millions of dollars worth of infrastructure, and it killed over 100 people.
We're in this complicated geologic basin where rain falls in the mountains to our north, and it torrents, when we have heavy rain, torrents down into the LA River, and the LA River flooded. This little dinky river. It created destruction and havoc.
We called on the federal government to help tame this river, and they sent in the Army Corps of Engineers to channelize it with concrete. It created 17,000 jobs, but it also destroyed a habitat.
That concrete pour there is the second largest concrete pour in the United States behind the Hoover Dam. There is so much concrete there, you could blast forever and not get it out.
Channelization of the LA River, it was good for flood control protection and good for development along the banks of the river, but it was bad for the ecosystem. We lost the red-legged frog, we lost the steelhead trout, we lost the arroyo chub, which is another fish. There are carp in here, and there are tilapia in here. The carp were brought over from Asia in the 1800s when the Chinese labor force built the railroads. So they'd make little farms inside the LA River, and in the floods of 1914, those farms were destroyed. So all of these carp and Asian clams have just been regenerating themselves for 100 years. And you can see right here, all of these little quote-unquote seashells are freshwater clams that are brought over from Asia in the 1800s. And they're all over. The Army Corps of Engineers studied the entire river, and they found out areas within the city of Los Angeles that would be suitable for restoration. And they chose this area, an 11-mile section from Chinatown into Burbank. And you could see a lot of the native plants are growing up in the soft bottom section. And it's soft bottom because the Army Corps of Engineers, when they put the concrete down in the 1930s, the groundwater table was so high the concrete wouldn't solidify. So imagine if you had constantly bubbling water and you're trying to put concrete down, it's not going to work. And the Army Corps of Engineers used to bulldoze all these trees every 5 years, and our organization in 1995 were able to meet with County Supervisor Zev Yaroslavsky and Mayor Tom Bradley at the time to stop them from bulldozing this area. So this is just 20 years of growth.
The river presents all kinds of interesting technological and engineering problems. How do you keep it as a flood control device, which it is, it's a mechanism for flood control, and yet respect its riverness?
Friends of Los Angeles River, or FOLAR is our acronym. We are an environmental advocacy organization and probably the first organization to care about the river. Friends of Los Angeles River has been cleaning up trash in the LA River for the last 27 years. Whatever's on the streets of Los Angeles makes its way into the LA River, like single-use bags, pretty much Fritos, Doritos, anything that gets thrown out of a car window and lands on the street, hits these storm drains and gets into the LA River.
I've worked on 4 restoration projects on 3 different watersheds. This is a long-term project, so sometimes plans are done and nothing is really achieved with them for many, many years.
Our founder, Louis McAdams, created this as a 40-year artwork, and now we're in our 30th year. So by the 40th year, I think you're going to see a 51-mile long park. So today we are at community outreach efforts for the Atwater Village Neighborhood Council in partnership with the National Park Service to create an East Bank Riverway.
We want to put a crosswalk here.
They want something on this side for a little bit more gentle recreation to enjoy the river. So that was an outreach effort for that. Engaging the community to see what they would like to see on the east bank of the river. There's so many great plans, and architect Mia Lehrer, she's designed a lot of these pocket parks along the banks of the LA River and helped with the 2007 master plan, which is kind of a before and after LA River booklet. Obviously, we have to leave most of this concrete intact for flood control protection, but there are sections where they're going to be taking out concrete or even changing the walls here, having kind of like a step-up terracing with plants and all types of wildlife.
It gets complicated, obviously, when we have to ask who speaks for the river. Who gets to decide what the river's banks will look like?
A lot of people have different ideas of what river restoration looks like.
Now we're in a phase where we're seeing a lot of developers speculating and buying up land right next to the river, including right here. The average Angelino is not seeing that the real estate speculation that's going on here to gobble up all the prime riverfront properties is leading us to the type of scenario, in my opinion, that we saw along the California coastline back in the 60s and 70s, where the wealthy were buying up all the oceanfront properties and denying people access to the beach.
We're advocating for more bike paths along the banks of the LA River.
As an equestrian, I'm very concerned because, after all, it was the equestrian community who built and rebuilt all the trail segments along here, and yet we're being pushed off the trails all the time by bicyclists, walkers, urban users who don't know how to play well with others.
It's going to be controversial and complicated, in part because there's so much money at stake.
Frank Gehry, the architect, recently formed a partnership with River LA, and we're kind of skeptical about what Frank Gehry's plans are because he hasn't really announced what he wants to do for the LA River.
The city has put into place a lot of river buffer environmental factors that these developers have to reach to build. But on the other hand, the cynical side of me says that LA's always had the mechanism that any developer can go to the city council and ask for what's known as a hardship waiver and not have to do any of that. And why would the LA River development be any different?
It's not going to be easy. There's no easy solution in this. Our environmental train has kind of left the station in the sense that we've done certain things to this river. We've scolded it. We've been angry at it. And now we want to embrace it again.
My parents used to drive up the 5 freeway and I would see this concrete ditch. Now you drive down the 5 freeway and all you see is trees and wildlife, and that's pretty remarkable to see it go from a concrete wasteland that is portrayed in movies back to some of its natural beauty.
It's not that we're trying to rewrite the past. We're still beholden to the past in powerful ways, but the river today is not the river it's going to be a year from now, nor is it the river that was a year ago.
It's the heart of the city. It's the pulse.
We have to remember that it has its own beauty, and that it's not just simply an ugly blot on an industrial landscape, that it has beauty, it has nature, it has animals, it has fish, it has birds. And if we can interact with it that way, with sensitivity and almost a kind of spiritual awareness, we can make of this river something grand. And that's really compelling.